up right?
Yeah, you can open up.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Black Agenda Podcast Live. As always, I'm your co-host, Devin Dito, and I have here with me, as always, is my other co-host, Adrian Guess, and we are back again for another weekly roundup number 8. And Adrian, a ton of news this week. We were working on the script really up until this morning because news just kept breaking, kept breaking, kept breaking. So it was hard to keep up with it, but we are here. We're ready to bring you all of the news from this week. And of course, we're going to start off with the biggest story of the week, which is that President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump have both tested positive for COVID-19. And so we got this notice. This is about 1 o'clock. It was really late in the morning or late at night, early in the morning on Friday. And Donald Trump tweeted out that he and Melania had tested positive for the virus. And right before this, presidential advisor Hope Hicks had announced on Thursday night that she had also tested positive for COVID-19. She was feeling well, and the test came back positive. So, Adrian, this story really advanced very, very quickly. We got the notification from the president that he had tested positive Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, President Trump, they said, was having mild and then they said moderate symptoms. And the next thing we know, he was being lifted, flying to Walter Reed Medical Center where he was going to, what they say, stay for a few days. And they say it was out of an abundance of caution. But Adrian, we've seen what the president said all year about the coronavirus, and he has not been taking it very, very seriously. So to see him come down with the virus, and then it seems to have become pretty ill to where they need to fly him to Walter Reed, says a lot about how serious this virus can be for certain people. And he's in the highest risk group. He's an older man. He's got overweight, and so there are some things there that could lead you to believe this could be a serious situation for him.
And Devin, it's just one of those things where it's almost laughable because we know how much of a narcissist he is, to where you would think that in a global pandemic he would be taking this as serious as anybody, because he would want himself to be protected above everybody. I mean, he already called people disgusting and said that's why he's great, that he didn't want to have to shake people's hands. And you would think that he would have such great level to take care of himself. I mean, you contrast him with like Vladimir Putin, who hadn't really come out of his residence since March. Definitely no ill will towards President Trump and his family, nor those close to him who've been infected. But you gotta wonder, whenever you have a person who jokes about wearing the biggest mask ever, or downplays the coronavirus since the start and tries to blame China for it, I just hope that when he gets out of this, he's changed, he's transformed. It's like a caterpillar out of a cocoon or something. I'm just hopeful that he sees that this is not a hoax. It's not something that the Democrats gave to him. I mean, when you dig at what you were talking about, Devin, about Hope Hicks, I mean, I think Mark Meadows said that they knew that she was positive with it, yet they still proceeded to go to a fundraising event where they probably got even more people infected than just the initial 7 people that were close to the president. So yeah, Devin, I mean, it's definitely sad news, because we never want anybody. I mean, we've already got over 200,000 Americans who died. I think over 7 million who have become infected. And we don't want, the person who's running our country, finger on the trigger for the, nuclear arms and things like that, to be sick or be incapacitated at any point. But again, I hope that this is something that causes him to kind of wake up a little bit. Because like you said, you got, the first lady who also tested positive. You got the former advisor, Kellyanne Conway. You've got the campaign manager. You got a lot of senators. I mean, you just got a lot of different people who are close to him, and you just wonder. I'm glad that he stopped, all the big rallies and things like that. But there's still been a lot of people who've been infected with this. They had that, Amy Comey Barrett's ceremony, which was pretty big and open, nobody wearing masks. So Devin, I don't know how he'll be transformed out of this, but I'm hoping that he wakes up on the other side and's like, well, maybe I don't need to blame China for this anymore.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate that it may take something like this to get to that point to where we take the virus seriously. Um, I'm not gonna say the ceremony on Saturday was definitely where he got it. We don't know exactly, we don't know exactly where the president got infected, but we do know that the White House has been pretty lax when it comes to mask wearing. There is no mask mandate in the White House when you're in there. You don't have to. They leave it up to a personal choice. And so, but what we do know is that about seven, like you say, 7 to 8 people who were at this ceremony, including, campaign manager Bill Stepien and 3 Republican senators, Mike Lee, Tom Tillis, and Ron Johnson, have all tested positive. Ron Johnson wasn't at the Barrett ceremony, but it looks like he was exposed and did contract the virus. And even Chris Christie, who was helping Trump with debate prep. A lot of these people were also involved with debate prep, and they think that this may have also been transferred there because Hope Hicks was there, Chris Christie was there, Kellyanne Conway may have been there, and of course the president was there. Bill Stepien, I think, was also at debate prep. So they're all there. They were in this closed room. No mask wearing was going on. So you had them all speaking, and somebody could have been infected and could have infected the entire group. So, as of right now, it looks like 7 people at the ceremony, but 11 total have been traced back to the presidential debate in Cleveland. And so we may be on the tip of the iceberg for this right now. We don't know how far this is going to go and how many people will end up actually being infected. And even we don't know if the president has been getting tested every day, because the White House doctor would not say when was the last time the president got a negative test. That would at least tell us kind of around the time when he may have contracted the virus. We don't know if he had been getting tested every day. That makes me think he probably wasn't. And then this popped up and Hope Hicks got infected, and that's when they tested the president. Not every day. But as far as the fallout from this, this kind of could throw things awry as far as this Supreme Court nomination when it comes to Mitch McConnell and people like Lindsey Graham, who are trying to, put Amy Coney Barrett on the bench before November. You have 3 Republican senators who are in quarantine right now. The president is out of commission, but Mitch McConnell says they're going to move forward. They're going to do it, in person. Some people are going to be video calling in, but they are all go for moving forward with this confirmation, even though the White House and Washington are in the middle of a COVID-19 outbreak.
And to top that off, Devin, one of the things that they keep talking about on Capitol Hill, they don't really have a testing protocol in place. They keep. I've heard a lot of Democratic congressmen and senators talk about the fact that they don't really have a good testing procedure. A lot of the GOP side, they don't even wear masks whenever they're in Capitol Hill, and it just baffles you. Even Mark Meadows came out when they were talking, about the president. He didn't even have a mask on. I mean, you have your boss that just contracted COVID, and you don't even have a mask on. It just seems like no one from this administration is actually taking it serious. It's just like I said. I'm not one of those things that talk about karma or you reap what you sow. But I know that in every religion and every culture, that sort of theme has been embedded into the way people think. And this is one of those moments where I'm like, Mr. President, you definitely have reaped a lot of negativity around the coronavirus. So please get healthy. Don't have this because another study came out around this where Donald Trump is the largest coronavirus misinformation source. So I'm like, please, Mr. President, get healthy. Don't mislead the American people on the virus. Start wearing a mask. Cut your crowd size down to what is under local ordinances. So I'm just like, it's really easy stuff here. I mean, I don't know, Devin. I'm hopeful that, like I said, that he'll come out on the other side and be smarter. We see that even the NFL is starting to deal with some outbreaks where you've got games having to be delayed. You got, the Patriots quarterback Cam Newton tested positive for it. They had to postpone their game against the Chiefs. And I mean, it's one of those things where everyone was just like, let's go ahead and have sports. Let's go ahead and get back into the American dream or whatever. But you have to remember, players, coaches, trainers, they're just like everybody else. They can test positive for coronavirus. I don't think there's anything about being a professional athlete that says you're immune to the virus, Devin. I don't think they've discovered that, or maybe they have and they hadn't told me about
Well, I mean, we should all take the virus seriously. This is not it's not a death sentence if you get it. It does not mean that you're going to die tomorrow. Some people may believe that, but generally most folks will recover. So as far as the president or Cam Newton, Ron Johnson, Chris Christie, the odds are in their favor to recover quickly and be okay afterwards. But this is a sign, though, that even if you contract the disease and you may not necessarily die from it, you could end up pretty sick and you could end up in the hospital and out of commission for quite some time. I mean, the president needed supplemental oxygen yesterday. They didn't say that until today, but yesterday, that was part of the reason why they moved President Trump to Walter Reed. He needed oxygen because he was having a hard time breathing. This virus is nothing to play around with. It's not the sniffles, unfortunately, like he's called it. It can be pretty serious. It attacks different people differently. But I would assume Cam Newton is probably going to be okay. I'm not sure if he's showing any kind of symptoms, but it is serious because he could spread it to other people who may be at a high risk, who may have other comorbidities, which would make them more likely to get extremely sick from it. But like you say, the Patriots Chiefs game has been postponed, and then the Tennessee Titans also have a pretty large outbreak. They have several players and several staff members who have tested positive for COVID-19 this week. And so they have already moved the team's game that was supposed to happen versus the Steelers. They've moved that to later in the season. And then on Tuesday, so what happened is on Tuesday, the NFL confirmed that 3 players and 5 staff members had actually tested positive for COVID-19. And those results came 3 days after it looks like a linebackers coach, Shane Bowen, tested positive for COVID-19. So, and the NFL has a very strict testing policy. If you test positive, you cannot go on the field. They have to isolate you. And yeah, I mean, it's, as much as we want to get past this coronavirus pandemic, it always comes back and reminds us it's still here. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, black, white, you can't contract it and you can get very ill, or you could pass it to someone who could get very ill. So we should always continue to wear our masks, to socially distance. And just to be totally honest, the White House and our government leaders set a very bad example on Saturday by sitting very close together outside at this Amy Coney Barrett ceremony with most people not wearing a mask. And they're hugging, they're talking really closely, they're doing everything the CDC, Dr. Fauci, and Dr. Redfield said not to do. And here we are with, people high up in our government out of commission because they didn't take the rules seriously. So we have to take this seriously, or as you can see, you can't pay the price where folks are out of commission.
Exactly. I hope that, I think with my job, I always end my, my meetings with my insurance customers. I always say, hey, have fun, but at the end of the day, wear a mask, stay healthy, because, we got to get through this together. No matter if you open up the schools, the stock market's going up, and people are dying and still getting sick, it doesn't really help to get to where we're trying to go to. So that's what we're gonna, leave you with, listeners, for this little first segment. We wanted to talk a little bit about, the breaking news with the president, because obviously that has a lot of implications. Not only here but internationally, people are checking us out, looking in to see what's going on. They've already been talking about the presidential line of succession if things, start to go kind of bad. So We'll make sure that you stay up to date. We'll make sure to bring you the news on it. But we're going to take our first little break here. And then when we come back, another big little news story was Trump's taxes. That kind of came out. So we want to go over a little bit of that. So sit back, listen well, and enjoy the break. All right, viewers, welcome back to the show. So let's get into this next little bit here, Devin, where we got the New York Times that published a story about President Trump and his taxes. Where one little nugget, they also I think last year, year before, published another one kind of about the whole family and tax evasion. So that kind of plays into another where we look at this story where they looks like President Trump only paid about $750 in taxes. Even the year that he ran for president, within his first year in office, he also paid $750. And you can think how you want to. He'll say that you're smart. He's smart rather because he didn't pay that much in taxes. But you have people like teachers, you have people who are nurses, first responders, and things like that who are contributing more than the president. And when you think about the tax base, viewers, you got to remember our tax base pays for our schools, pays for police. Everyone's talking about don't defund police. Well, if you're not paying adequate taxes, you're almost like you're defunding the police. The story even explains how he paid no income taxes in all of 10 of the previous 15 years, largely because he reported losing more money than he made, which is so interesting because he always brags about being a self-made billionaire and a great businessman. They do not have the 2018 and the 2019 returns, so we don't have those. But again, we do have the fact that he paid that $750 in taxes. There's just a lot in this, Devin. And I mean, I think a lot of people can feel whatever way they want to whenever they talk about it, but you just have a person who almost, cheats and steals. Talks about this decade-long audit battle with the IRS over a tax refund of $72.9 million. So I mean, it's just like there's just so much going on with his taxes that I think that we as the American public should see more and should know more because there's a lot of murkiness in this that as a president, we need some transparency and we need some full disclosure.
Yeah, I think that's, I hate to talk about this. We understand he's sick and we hope for a speedy recovery. We don't ever hope that he dies or anything like that. But we have to talk about these things. And unfortunately, they aligned in the same week. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to finally get the details of this because this is something he's been fighting for a really, really long time. And we've been trying to get our hands on this. So yeah, I mean, it shows he paid barely any taxes, and he's claiming these humongous losses every single year, and that's how he's getting these low tax bills and also tax refunds. So I think I could see why he may have tried to keep his hands on this, because it doesn't really show the great businessman that Donald Trump is supposed to be. You know, he's got all these golf courses that he's invested in, but they're losing millions of dollars every single year. And so when that happens, you do build up debt, like you say, and that debt, what the New York Times is saying, he has more than $300 million in loans that will be coming due within the next 4 years, and that he has personally, he's responsible for those. And so it just seems as though even after the White House, when he gets out, he's going to have a financial problem, which is that he's going to be on the hook for 300, plus $1 million in loans, and you have properties and golf courses that are losing millions of dollars. It seems as though we can't point to one Trump business that is working, that is making tons of money, like one would think when you have somebody who's supposed to be a billionaire and is supposed to be this great deal maker. That's not really reflected in these taxes. So it really seems as though it's more of a the Trump name is probably worth more than his business dealings. It doesn't seem as though he's this great deal maker who goes and creates this business. So really, it's not surprising. You look at our federal budget. He comes in, they cut taxes, and deficits go through the roof, and the country continues losing billions and trillions of dollars every single year. So it's just like his businesses. The country is in the same state, and he hasn't really fixed it. So the taxes kind of confirm what we were all thinking.
Exactly. And it's like you see that he's made money. It's like, from the returns, I think it showed that he made like $427 million from the Apprentice and other license and endorsement deals. But it's like, what did you do with all this money? Looks like I think he invested it mainly into golf businesses. And when you look at it, I think Rachel Maddow put out a report where most of his golf businesses are losing like 62 million, 120 million. I mean, they're losing so much every year. So it's just like, yeah, this whole persona of being a great businessman, you definitely can't have that. I'm hopeful that there's going to be, again, hope that he's going to heal and come up out of this on the other side. But we got to dig into this a little bit more because, you got the precedent that we've had, I think it went all the way back to, I don't know, maybe Nixon or something. I can't remember how far it goes back, but every president's always released their tax returns except, this one president. But you've got, the Bidens, they've, done their tax returns, and looks like the couple paid almost 300,000 federal taxes last year, including almost 288 in personal income tax. Looks like they have taxable income of right under about $1 million. Even, Kamala Harris, and her husband, they posted theirs. Looks like they're paying about 105 million personal income tax, about 1.19 in federal taxes, and they've got about 3 million in taxable income together. So you've got the other people who are trying to show what's going on and trying to show that, hey, we're being transparent. And viewers, the reason why they're doing this is because transparency as far as your money shows where your allegiance is to. Because if we look at the tax returns and we see that, Donald Trump has, a lot of stuff in Russia or a lot of stuff to other countries, then that may explain why he may want, relax sanctions. Maybe he's got a lot of dealings in the Middle East. Maybe that's why he's, trying to do these different arms deals. So it does actually matter to figure out what's going on here. So I'm hopeful that we will be able to dig off into it again, not to bully on him or anything like that, but just to know as a president, are you doing executive orders? Are you fighting for the American people? Or are you fighting for your own personal liabilities? Are you trying to fight to make sure you can personally get out of debt? Or are you trying to help your debtors rather than us? So it does actually matter.
Yeah, it's and let's not, it doesn't. I don't want to make it seem like we're blaming Trump for taking advantage of a tax code that's really written for people like him. He's not necessarily doing anything wrong. He's just taking advantage of a system that doesn't work, the system that has a ton of loopholes, and so it allows these super rich people to write off losses. And if you write off so much, eventually you're going to get a very small tax bill or pay none, or you might get a return like Donald Trump did. That's why he's in audit. Um, but this is a problem, a larger problem with the IRS and the tax code. Like I say, that it's not written like everyday people don't have that type of ability to write off these humongous business losses like that. We don't have the time and we don't have the money to pay people to do that for us. We do our turbo taxes and our H&R blocks, and that's it. That's our tax person, and so we pay our bills just like everybody else. And the fact that I'm paying just about as much as Donald Trump in taxes is ridiculous when he's supposed to be a millionaire, and we're not even in the six digits yet. So that is a perfect encapsulation of what is wrong with America. The system works for those at the top. Those at the bottom are the ones who are stuck, on the short end of the stick and can't get out of, say, paying our taxes like these other people or corporations do. It's even worse when you look at people like Jeff Bezos, who pay none in taxes, or Amazon pays no corporate tax. Like, and you go down the list, there are plenty of companies, humongous companies, that pay very little or zero taxes. And that is a problem that needs to be fixed. And, Trump ran on trying to supposedly fix the system to work and draining the swamp. He went and signed a tax bill to help out those at the top. So, I mean, Donald Trump is not necessarily the person that's going to come and change the system that he benefits from. He's just like the rest of the politicians that are up there who've been up there for a very long time, who haven't changed it. He's just part of the club now. So this is something that we, the people, have to go out and elect folks who are going to fix it to make the tax code fair, to where folks have to pay, their fair share of taxes just like the rest of us do.
Yeah, I think it's got to be like what Devin said, viewers. One of those issues that, like education, like healthcare, like jobs, like the economy, we got to make the tax code and the tax law part of it, because this isn't anything illegal that he's done as far as cheating. I wouldn't say cheating, because that has a connotation, but
he took advantage of it.
Then say again, Devin.
No, I was saying he took advantage of it.
Yeah, he took advantage of it. There's a lot of people who do that, and we need to change it so that they can't take advantage of it, because again, this tax base pays for us to be able to have a good safety net, to be able to have a country. Without taxes, we don't have a country, because that's the main revenue source for a country. It's not like you've got a 401k, or you've got salary that you come in, you got taxes. One of the other things before we get off of this, I found it interesting. Andrew Weissman, he was one of Robert Mueller's lead prosecutors on the Russia probe. He actually came out with a book. I think it's called "Where Law Ends: Inside the Mueller Report." I just wanted to make sure to highlight that, because it's kind of interesting, because one of the things that he was frustrated about was the fact that the Mueller probe couldn't really investigate Trump's finances. At every whim that they got a chance to do that, they would get a call saying, "Hey, y'all may get fired," or whatever. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because we're getting, like I said, we got the news about, his family and kind of the tax evasion. We're getting this news about, taxes, and, he's coming out saying that we should have been able to follow the money. So yeah, there definitely seems to be something that's going on with the money. So I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out. Maybe y'all want to go buy the book and do some reading over the weekend. But on to another little bit here. We got the September jobs report, Devin. I think the overall theme is just showing that maybe our economy is starting to plateau a little bit. Maybe it's not booming and busting like everybody thought it was going to be, because it looks like we only added, about 100, actually only about 661,000 jobs last month, where in previous months, June was 4.8 million. July was 1.8 million. August was 1.5 million. Now we're, just a little over 500,000 jobs added. So I don't know if that's just indicating that our economy is starting to stabilize, or maybe that's an indication that we're not tackling the thing that's holding up our economy, which is the pandemic. So that, I think it's a lot to be said when you look at these jobs report, Devin. And this is another thing, like the tax code, people don't really dive off into. So I'm glad that we're making sure to highlight it.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit discouraging to see that September jobs report, knowing that at the top of October we saw major airlines announcing these humongous layoffs. So we know come November when we get the October report, this might look a little bit worse. 661,000 jobs last month was below expectations. They were expecting, I think, somewhere around 800,000, but we ended up at 661. And so that shows you, like you say, that maybe things are starting to cool off a little bit. And, folks aren't hiring like they used to. The number, and so a couple of things to show you that maybe this recovery is slowing down is that one, the number of people who considered their job loss permanent rose by 345,000 to almost 4 million people. And that is the highest figure since 2013. And then we still have over 2 million people who have been unemployed for at least 6 months. So you're talking half the year these folks have gone without a job. And that is also the most since 2015. And the unemployment rate did drop. So that was at least overall good news. But when you break it down by race, you see that the unemployment rate remains at 7% for whites, 10.3% for Hispanic Americans, but it's still at 12% for African Americans. And so it's a mixed bag. Yes, there are some improvements, but the improvement as far as the unemployment rate was really driven by people leaving the workforce. The number of people who have a job or looking for one dropped by 258,000 for white people, less than 200,000 for blacks, and 127,000 for Hispanics. So you see a lot of folks leaving the workforce, and so that helps to drop the unemployment rate, but there still remains a 12% unemployment rate for African Americans. And so there's no coronavirus stimulus, doesn't really seem to be coming. These airlines have laid off and furloughed a bunch of folks. They're going to be in this next report that comes out in November. So it's really kind of a hairy time. You're not really sure where this economy is going and how stable it really is. Now you have a president that's at Walter Reed. He's sick. The markets went down yesterday. And then Democrats and Republicans are just not on the same page when it comes to coronavirus stimulus. The Democrats did pass a cheaper $2.2 trillion stimulus plan on Thursday, but again, the chances of that making it through the Senate are slim to none. The only other shiny, possibility here is that the president did tweet today that he wanted to see more stimulus. But we'll see. Steve Mnuchin, I think, and Nancy Pelosi are talking, but at this moment, there is no consensus as far as what's going to happen with more stimulus, and it does not look likely that we're going to see anything. Now, if the jobs report in November comes out and it's really bad, we may get something then, but until before the election, it just doesn't look likely.
Yeah, Devin, I completely agree with you on that part. And, that among many things frustrates me about, how Congress operates. But, I just think about the fact that we've got, a lot of senators who are trying to rush a Supreme Court justice nominee and get somebody on the bench. But, but you've got a country that is just struggling. I mean, you putting, or rather, they putting Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court does nothing to put people back to work. Does nothing to make sure that our tests are more accurate or we get results faster. Mm-hmm. Does nothing to make sure kids are able to go to school safer. It's just appalling and almost offending that you have the Republicans who are trying to push and focus so hard on the Supreme Court right now. But you've got all these other issues, and again, I try to be as rather unbiased as we can, but it's just offensive to have all these different things going on, but yet you've got a Republican Party who's just really just trying to press and get somebody on the bench, but they won't come and talk to Speaker Pelosi and Senator Schumer and get into these conversations with Secretary Mnuchin to try to figure out what we're going to do to help the American people. So I don't know, Devin. I hope that again that they wake up and can see. Maybe they have some time to talk. I think Speaker Pelosi and Secretary Mnuchin are speaking, over the weekend right now. So hopefully they will be able to come to some sort of terms, and everybody else will be able to kumbaya and set the campfire and get along or whatever. But we're going to take another break here, viewers. And another big thing was this debate. I think everybody's got some mixed feelings about it, but there's a couple different things that we want to highlight. So again, sit back, listen well, and enjoy the break.
Okay. All right. So we'll do this. I'm gonna recap it. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
So, we were talking about the debate from Tuesday, and we were just kind of going over some of the high moments and low moments. There were quite a few of those. But the first one was that Trump claimed that he paid millions of dollars in taxes, and the New York Times says he paid $750. Biden also declared himself and said, "I am the Democratic Party" during the debate, and this is when he was being pressed by Donald Trump that he would be, persuaded and really just run over by the more left leaning parts of the party. And then Biden did call Trump a racist, a clown, and he told him to shut up, all in the same debate now. And then probably the lowest moment for me was that Trump said that Biden's son was kicked out of the army for doing cocaine, and he was kicked out dishonorably. Biden's son did have a drug addiction to cocaine. He has fought that. He's gotten past that. But to me, Adrian, to bring up something as personal, especially about someone's son, their child, if Barron Trump had a drug problem, I would hope that Joe Biden wouldn't bring that up during a debate. But it just shows, just how low the bar is in our politics now, where that stuff is okay. Nobody talked about that. There was so much negativity in that debate that moment kind of got lost. But to me, it just showed who Donald Trump is. He does not care about, rules and the way we do things as far as politics, and nothing is off limits apparently. That was Biden's son. That's his son. He's worked past that problem, and he sit there and to throw it in his face was totally disrespectful.
I agree. Just speaking more to the thread of just kind of getting into the I guess the psyche of Donald Trump. I mean, it's just as I watched the debate, it was almost just looking like a kid just trying to chime in at every moment. I mean, even over Chris Wallace, who's a Fox news guy, is supposed to be like buddy to Trump. I mean, or whatever, like almost throwing him lowball questions. That's kind of the relationship they have with Trump and Fox News. But Trump disrespected even Chris Wallace. I mean, I think for me the lowest moment, and I think for everyone, we can all remember the white supremacy moment. And it's just so crazy to me. It's just like, Chris Wallace, Joe Biden is just saying, hey, denounce, white supremacists, denounce, neo-Nazi, denounce all these hate groups and all this hate speech. And, instead of Donald Trump's, just, coming out bowling saying, hey, I denounce it. Don't vote for me if you stand for that. He just says, what do you want me to call him? Give me a name. It's like we just gave you two or three of them. I mean, just start off with white nationalists or white supremacy. Just start off with the basics here. But he couldn't do that. Instead, he was just like, Joe gave him a low ball right there and just said Proud Boys. And I guess he's maybe familiar with them. And just said stand back and stand by rather than don't vote for me, cease and desist or disarm or stop. I mean, he tells people who are natural born citizens to go back to their country, but he'll tell these people to just stand by and stand down. It's just appalling. I mean, even you got a Fox reporter, John Roberts, who was so frustrated with the White House's reaction to it by saying, well, the president's denounced it in the past. No, he hasn't really denounced in the past. He'll read off the teleprompter and say, well, these people are bad and they shouldn't do what they do. But then he'll look up and he'll actually look at the cameras where he's talking to his supporters and say, no, but y'all are actually good people. Because he knows that these people are the ones that vote for him. And it's sad to say that, again, not to bully on him, kick a dog while he's down or something like that. Because, again, we want the president and his wife and everyone to recover from coronavirus. But he's our president. He's the one who brought himself into the spotlight, made himself, the part of attention. And if you're going to be the president, you kind of look and act presidential, because the reaction across the nation and across the world was horrendous. Devin, I don't think anybody, like you said, gathered or learned anything from the debate. I'm not a Biden fan, and I don't think I became more of a Biden fan out of that debate. I think Joe just tried to do his best that he could to just get a word in or there. But this debate just did not showcase anything to the world that America is going to come out of this administration stronger and better apt to handle the issues of humanity.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a bad debate. Absolutely the worst we've ever seen. But I think we still ended up having a winner, which you could say was Joe Biden, because Trump kept interrupting him to the point where Biden really didn't get to say anything that would hurt him. And so we come out of the debate, and the race really hasn't changed. Biden is still ahead. He didn't really get attacked too much. I mean, he got attacked, but nothing really stuck, and he didn't say anything to really hurt his campaign. The race is pretty much the way it was before the debate. That's a win for Joe Biden. I mean, that's all you could really ask for. But going forward, the next presidential debate is October 15th and then October 22nd. We'll see if Trump will be there because he is currently sick. But the commission that puts on these presidential debates is already saying that they're looking at changing the rules. I'm pretty sure one of them is going to be giving the moderator the ability to cut somebody's mic if they keep interrupting. And they should have had that beforehand, but that is definitely needed. I honestly felt really bad for Chris Wallace because he had an impossible job. I'm not sure what else he could have done other than take Trump off the stage. I don't know what else he could have done to get that back under control. It was a chaotic debate. Like you say, the world was kind of looking at us like, man, what has really happened to the United States? We're really in a mess right now. And so that debate really was an example of where our politics are, which is just shouting past each other. Nobody's really listening. We're not really having debates and discussions. Mm-hmm. We just want to get our points out, and we want to yell it as loud as we can and assume that we're correct, and forget what's true and what's not. So a pitiful debate, and kind of in that strain as far as talking about the presidential race. Joe Biden is still ahead. All the polls still have him with about a 7 to 8 point lead nationally. And he is ahead in most of the swing states like Pennsylvania. I think some polls came out today. He's leading in Pennsylvania, leading in Florida. Texas is definitely in play, it looks like. And speaking of Texas, the Republican governor here.
Not only is voting in play, but it seems like voter suppression is in play too.
That's the new thing well, it's not a new thing, but that is certainly one of the tricks that the GOP seems to be up to. At least here in Texas, where I am, the Texas Governor Greg Abbott just decided, I think this was on Thursday or Friday, he put out an order that ordered every county in the state of Texas to go down to one drop box per county. So this is the drop boxes where you can drop off your mail-in ballots and anything like that. He is forcing every county in the state to go down to just one. So counties like Dallas County, where I used to be, and Harris County, where Houston is, they will have one drop box for that entire county. You're talking about humongous counties with millions of people who live there that will have one drop box. Adrian, this is pretty obvious voter suppression. I mean, it doesn't get more blatant than this, especially with us being exactly a month away from Election Day, and they keep changing the rules. And I think it's just an attempt to suppress the vote and confuse people on what to do. We already have millions of folks who are voting by mail, and now you throw this monkey wrench in there to say, oh, well, now you have to drive, it could be 20, 30 miles to one drop box if you don't want to go to a local office. So I think, to me, Adrian, it tells me that Republicans see the writing on the wall. They see the polling, mm-hmm. and they know that Trump is looks like on track to be put out of office by a landslide. And places like Texas could be in play.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think it goes back to our other episode where we interviewed Aaron Johnson out of Fulton County in Georgia,
Yeah.
where we were talking about all these things and how he was just saying, if you're a registered voter, that's like one line of defense. I mean, because you can't just receive a ballot if you're not a registered voter. And I mean, all these allegations about voter fraud are few and far between. So when you think about it, viewers, if we're going to be in a democracy, by and large, we should be trying to figure out how to make voting easier. But this is a clear example of making voter harder. The governor says this is about election security, making sure that I guess to legitimize the ballots. But there are other procedures to do that. I mean, we have different machines to validate signatures and things of that nature. And again, to have a ballot, you have to be a registered voter, meaning you're a citizen. You've gone through the protocols and there. It's just interesting, man. You even see out of Michigan, there was a story where it looks like the attorney general is going to be announced charges against two people. One person that's 54-year-old out of Virginia, and one that's 22-year-old here out of California. They've been doing a lot of robocalls to kind of sow some doubt on the election. This isn't. I don't know if they know the affiliations of these two people as far as if they're Republican or Democrat or anything like that. But it just goes to show that you have a lot of people who might be listening to the rhetoric from the president or other people who were trying to sow some doubt on the election, and they're picking up on this because they want to ensure the election one way or the other. Fortunately, the authorities are working with law enforcement agencies in Virginia and California to bring about these suspects to a Detroit courtroom. But I this story, again, it's going to be an ongoing story. More out of this, we'll make sure to keep updated. We hope that other people don't, get influences from these robocalls and start trying to intimidate voters, suppress voters. Again, viewers, we should be doing every effort we can to make voting free and easy for those who are supposed to be doing it, so we can make sure that our elections are in our hands and not in other hands.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. They're gonna try anything to try to swing the votes one way or the other. We just have to be prepared to show up and vote. And to continue on the different ways in which this administration is trying to sway or stop people from voting. There was a case here in Montana where the judge rejected a Trump campaign lawsuit where they were attempting to block Montana's from going forward with holding the 2020 election mostly by mail. And the judge actually said the president and his supporters could not point to a single instance of voter fraud in Montana in any election during the last 20 years. And that, to me, shows you just how desperate this campaign is to try to sow as much doubt as they can into this election, and to try to, in fact, steal it. They're trying to rush through a justice to get her on the Supreme Court to possibly have to decide an election. And so they're trying it every way that they can, even in Pennsylvania.
And hey, Devin, before you
Yeah.
get off the door, not only are they trying, but the it looks like they filed a lawsuit, but the Republican National Committee was a part of that lawsuit. Yeah. The Republican Senatorial Committee, the Montana Republican State Central Committee, all of them are working with the Trump administration to block this Montana, voters from being able to do mail-in ballots. It's I don't mean to cut you off, but to me, it's crazy that you've got one person who's just really transformed the party. Because I mean, like I said, you've got not only his campaign, but you've got GOP committees trying to block voters. It's crazy. I mean, you got a judge who's literally said in the last 20 years you can't point to this, but you got all these people who are trying to make a case saying that we should not do mail-in ballots. So again, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to me, it's just so interesting that you got all these other committees working with the Trump campaign to stop other people from voting, and they happen to be Republican committees.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point to show that this is a team effort. by the Republicans to to try to stop people from voting by mail or make it more difficult, because they know that it's mostly, at least so far, it's been mostly Democrats who are turning in these mail-in ballots. So they know that they're at a disadvantage right now, and they're trying every way that they can to stop it or to suppress it or make it more difficult. Even, like I'm saying, in Pennsylvania, they're now creating a commission that seeks to investigate the November election before we even get there. They are saying that they're going to have an integrity commission that's going to review the election, and it says the work will be done afterwards. And it, of course, this drew fire from Democratic lawmakers and the governor, because it's just they're setting the stage to try to challenge the results of this election. And, they're not going to stop. We have to make sure we go up and we vote. And when we get to election day, it has to be a blowout. It has to be a landslide to where there's no way enough voter fraud would make up the difference and make Trump the president. We don't need a continuation. We just need people to accept the results. It's going to take a little longer this time. But if the results come in and it looks like it's going to be a Joe Biden landslide, these attempts are going to be futile. It's not going to do anything because it's just not going to make up enough of a difference. So to end this segment, though, on a positive note, LeBron James, NBA star LeBron James, has recruited 10,000 poll workers for Election Day. And he did that with his voting rights organization called More Than a Vote and the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. They all announced this on Wednesday. They have 10,000 people who signed up to be poll workers. And so they're looking towards the next phase of recruitment, which is they're focusing on cities like Birmingham, Alabama, Charlotte, Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and San Antonio, to try to recruit more poll workers to get folks out. And they're also going to roll out targeted ads in cities over the next few weeks. And then they're going to have mailings in 10 targeted states in the South. So what you're seeing is athletes like LeBron James getting involved into politics a little bit, trying to make sure that folks are involved in the election process. Not only are they voting, but they can work as poll workers. Get people involved, do your civic duty to ensure that the process goes smoothly. And I love to see, people who come from other walks of life getting involved in politics. They can do more than dribble a basketball. And LeBron James is proof. He's got 10,000 poll workers here.
No, that is exactly right. So I'm glad we ended. I wanted to make sure we had a little bit of nugget of positivity in there to say, yeah, you can, dribble and talk and represent the cause. So, yeah. So with that, viewers, we're going to take another break here. This is our last break. And as always, we want to make sure to leave with some quick hits, a little bit of nuggets you may not have heard throughout the country. But again, sit back, listen well, enjoy the break, and we'll be back with you.
All right, welcome back. So as always, we like to end our show with some quick hits, which are stories that you may have missed during the week. I'm sure you probably didn't miss them this week. This has been a crazy week as far as news is concerned. So our very first quick hit is going to be about a new commission in Hollywood. So Anita Hill, who became famous in 1991 when she accused Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas of sexual harassment, that Anita Hill is now leading a commission called the Hollywood Commission on Eliminating Sexual Harassment and Advancing Equality. It's a very long name. But they're aiming to build a reporting platform to help folks identify repeat offenders. Now, Hill was named the chair of this commission in 2017 in the wake of the hashtag #MeToo movement, which was sparked by allegations against Harvey Weinstein. But this commission is there, and they recently released an industry survey that was conducted last November, and the key findings of the study deal with accountability and the abuse of power and the difficulty of reporting harassment and retaliation. And this survey actually found that people of color and younger employees were the most vulnerable workers in Hollywood.
And on to another little bit of news here. We did get the Breonna Taylor grand jury tapes. Looks like about 15 plus hours of audio tape recordings come out. And man, it seems like a very chaotic scene was painted. You've got, according to the Louisville Journal, the warrant was executed as a knock and announce. Neighbors dispute that, though, with all but one saying that they never heard anyone shout police. You've got Greg Hankinson, the officer who was shot, said over the radio that the subject was barricading inside the apartment with a rifle that looks like an AR. In fact, Taylor's boyfriend, Mr. Walker, had a Glock 9mm handgun that he fired once and then surrendered. You've got a neighbor, Jack Schuler, who said that there were so many gunshots, it sounded like the OK Corral. Another neighbor, Elaine Williams, said that when she opened the door, she heard an officer say, "Reload, reload. Let's do what we got to do." You've got a woman who called 911 and said that they saw that the officer on the scene told her in the recorded Facebook Live video that some drug dealing girl shot at the police. And she asked him to kind of reiterate and said some drug dealing girl shot at an officer. So I don't know, Devin, a lot going on there. I think there's going to be a lot more news coming out. A lot of people are going to be able to listen to these tapes. So go in, listen to those. But again, you got over 15 hours of the grand jury trial for Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be a lot more news coming out about that. But our next story here, a little bit more upbeat, kind of funny, is that in Ireland, the Ireland Supreme Court actually ruled that Subway bread is too sugary to be legally called bread. Now, the country's what they call a value-added tax, this has been in place since 1972, says that tax-exempt bread can't have sugar, fat, and bread and powder that exceeded 2% of the weight of flour. Now, in Subway's recipe, sugar makes up 10% of the weight of the flour, according to this judgment, and that's 5 times what the law in Ireland says is acceptable for it to be called what they call as bread. And so the law distinguishes bread as a staple food from other baked goods that are, things like cake and that. In other words, what they were saying is that Subway's bread is perhaps legally closer to cake than bread, and at least in Ireland, that's what they say. And of course, I remember this a few years ago where there was some controversy over whether or not Subway's foot long was actually a foot long. And so someone actually, I think, sued the company to see if that was true. And then, of course, we know this sometimes with fast food especially. Taco Bell has said that their meat is not 100% meat. It's a percentage of meat. So kind of funny there. Subway bread may not actually be bread. It may be closer to cake if you ask the people in Ireland.
That's right. And I mean, that makes you wonder what we have here in America. Though, one of the things, to go to that Taco Bell point, I did a little Google search, and if you go to their website actually says it is 100%, beef. But it's the only I've ever, right. It's the only beef I've ever eaten before where it's just literally destroyed everything inside of me, no matter what time of day you eat it. So if that's 100% beef, They need to resource where they're getting their beef from. But on to another little bit of news. Hey, you got former FBI Director James Comey in the spotlight again. Looks like they came out with a film about him called The Comey Rule, which is kind of like a drama. I don't know if it's a comedy or whatever. I hadn't watched it yet, but it kind of talks about the relationship that the president had with James Comey. And I think it's supposed to just show the fact that, the relationship between an FBI director and the president isn't supposed to be a buddy buddy deal, but it's supposed to be in accord to make sure that national security and domestic policy coincide with one another. You even have Comey, who had to testify in front of the Senate Intel Committee because again they're trying to say that the Russia investigation was kind of about the FISA violations and the Steele dossier and had no merit, but you still had James Comey saying, "Hey guys, yeah, we get that those things were issues, but our investigation was not based off of that. The investigation into the Russians led to several indictments, several different facts were uncovered. So, and the Republican-led Senate Intel Committee even went further than Bob Mueller to kind of speak out against what the president did. And I think we highlighted that in one of our episodes. So I don't know why they keep trying to deflect away from what the Russians did because they're still trying to do that now. Maybe some of Donald Trump's money is tied to Russia, so they're trying to still cover those trails. So I don't know, but again, Comey in the spotlight again.
Right. And our last story here is very important for those who have not completed their census application yet, or survey rather, census survey. On Friday, a federal judge has actually ordered the Census Bureau to text every 2020 census worker by Friday to let them know that the head count of every resident in the country is actually going to continue throughout the month of October, and it will end on October 31st instead of October 5th, which is what the Census Bureau have been telling all of their workers. And the order was issued late on Thursday. And it says that people can continue to answer the questionnaire and that census workers can continue to knock on doors through October 31st to hopefully get more people counted. And the reason why the census really matters is because the census decides how many congressional seats and electoral votes that each state gets. But it also determines how the $1.5 trillion in federal spending that we have is distributed every single year. And that spending includes things like highways money, money for healthcare, education, you name it. Whatever the federal government spends money on, the census money kind of determines how much goes to certain places. So if you haven't filled out your census survey, do it now. If someone comes and knock on your door, and just, make sure that they're a real person, not a scammer. But the census is ongoing and will continue to go on throughout the month of October. And so that is the last quick hit that we have. And that is all we have for our show today. Adrian, I know it's been a crazy week. We've been trying to work on this script all morning, but we made it through.
Yeah, we did. We finally made it through. It was a lot going on. Again, I always say, we're not trying to bully on, the president, but that seems to be always the news of what's going on in our country, something that's going on. But yeah, we got a lot coming up. I mean, it looks like I think our upcoming. Oh yeah, don't forget we got an interview coming up on this Tuesday. From Mary Frances Winter, Black Fatigue. We're going to be talking about that feeling that you may get from fighting racism. She's kind of coined that term and written a lot about it. We'll also have another live discussion on next Thursday, so don't forget that. You can check that out. And as always, every Saturday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're always going to be bringing you a live weekly update. Don't forget, I don't know if we highlighted this in the last part, rather last week, but you can always donate to the cause as well. You can go to patreon.podbean/Black Agenda Pod, and you can start, contributing to us so that we can, give scholarships, give to charities, lobby congressional leaders. It's all about a movement here, not just, giving you news, not just talking to leaders and interviewing people, but it's a movement to really bring some change in our communities.
Yeah, I mean, as Adrian said, you can always donate to us. We're trying to, you know, really make some change. We want to inform people as well. That way we can fight for change the correct way. So, with that, that's going to do it for us in the Black Agenda podcast. Again, you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. It's right there at the very top. You can listen to us, and you can also follow us at Black Agenda Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can rewatch this episode on YouTube. You can watch our previous discussion about the Breonna Taylor case, and you can also watch our other weekly roundups, all on YouTube. You can watch it all there. So, again, for Adrian, again, another fantastic episode, and as always, we'll catch you next time.